Remember that this selection is based on their career aspirations, it's based on their grades or based on how they performed during their grade 7 to 9, and it's also based on their interests and talents. We're back to senior secondary, and I hope we can learn a bit more about the selection process. Welcome and welcome back to Elimu Cafe. I'm Teacher Leah, a teacher and educator, and I hope we can learn a bit more today. On our previous episode, we addressed the 3 pathways. We talked about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. We looked at the social sciences, and we also looked at arts and sports sciences. So today, I want us to look at just slightly deeper, what exactly will the selection look like. So number one, and the most important thing that I want all of us to get out of our heads is that schools are going to be recategorized. Please say it with me. Wherever you are, schools will be recategorized. How we thought about schools, national schools, sub-county schools, district schools, whichever way you remember schools is all now gone up in flames. Poof, no longer going to exist. The categorization of schools has changed completely. And so how we used to think, oh, my child is going to go to a national school. Oh, my child is going to go to a sub-county school. Or a child, that has been removed. And all the schools are going to be categorized differently. The schools are going to be categorized in only 4 ways. 1 is going to be through pathways. 2 is going to be through the accommodation. 3 is going to be because of gender. And the last categorization is going to be on special needs. Now, how is a school categorized in pathways? Schools are expected to offer at least 1 main pathway, which I told you is the STEM pathway. So all schools are expected to offer the STEM pathway plus another pathway. And also there are schools, if they have the capacity, they can offer all the 3 pathways. So the 3 pathway schools will be called the triple pathway schools, meaning that they are offering the STEM pathway, the social sciences pathway, and the arts and sports science pathway. So this school is giving your child an all-round experience. But remember, your child will only study in that school what they selected as a pathway. So I want to give you a scenario. Let's say my child is called Mudokinjo. Hi, Mudokinjo Hardware. And my child selects a particular pathway, but they go to school X, and let's call school X Mau Mau school. That child will only study the pathway that they selected. It's not just because they went to a triple pathway school that they'll do 3 pathways. No, the pathway selection still remains as 1 as of the time we're making this shoot. Now, a triple pathway school means that the school will offer the STEM, the social sciences, and the arts and sports sciences, as I've told you. And that can be any school, from Alliance to Karumaindo to Arabusa Pokoke, whichever school it is going to be categorized as a triple pathway school or a double pathway school. Double pathway, if they select, for example, the STEM and social sciences, they'll be called a STEM school. If they select the STEM plus the arts and sports sciences, they'll be called a STEAM school. And that's it. Triple, STEM, and STEAM. No more national schools, no more sub-county schools, no more county schools. All that is gone. Now, schools will also be categorized as a second category according to gender. So, we're expecting that there are some schools that will be all girls schools. As of course, as we know right now, there are schools that will be all boys schools, and there are schools that will be mixed. So it means that they'll have both boys and girls. And schools that already have that, you know them by now. And so those schools will also be considered a category in its own right. Then the third way in which they are going to be selecting, or rather they're going to be categorizing schools, is going to be through accommodation. Now, very interesting conversation happening here now as of the time we're shooting this video. Schools are only going to be categorized according to 2 accommodation options. The first category is going to be day schools. Day schools is where your child goes to school in the morning and goes back home in the evening. And the second category that they are now introducing is called the hybrid accommodation option. So that means that your child can be in a school where they are going for day, and there's some students in the school who are still boarding. And the child can go home on weekends. The child can come back after the weekend. That's the hybrid program that they're introducing in this new wave of CBC curriculum. So this particular way is to say that, for example, a child can be in a school and they're going home every day, and another child is in the same school and they're boarding. That's what a hybrid system of categorization looks like. Now, the question remains, are there going to be full boarding schools? As of now, as of shooting this video right now, they have said that essentially that category no longer exists. So there will be no full boarding schools any longer. But as I said, this program keeps changing every time. So maybe by the time we are coming up in upcoming episodes, we can talk about it and say maybe they've changed it. Because even as we are shooting this video, remember there was a time they were saying maths will not be compulsory, but now maths has been brought back as a compulsory subject. So please remember that this is a work in progress, but as of now, there are no full boarding schools anymore, according to the proposal that they've put on the table. And that means that the fourth and last category is the special needs category. The special needs category is for children who have or are experiencing special needs. And by special needs, I mean, this is like the special education part of the curriculum. So these children are going to be categorized in two ways. Here, there's going to be the special needs schools, which will cover they'll cover impairments. For example, there'll be a school for speech, not for speech really, but for vision or for visually impaired learners. There's going to be a school for hearing impaired learners, that kind of categorization. And then we're going to have another category that is sort of like a stage-based vocational training school, where now children with mild to moderate special needs will be expected to go to these schools to learn skills that will enable them to become independent in their adult life. So here children will be learning cooking, carpentry, jewelry, artisan courses are going to be offered in these special need category schools. So we're going to have just those four categories all through and through, and scrapping off any other category that has been introduced in the past, especially in 844 as we know it. So those are the four categories that we're going to be looking at. Now, what then becomes of how your child will select these schools? They've given us a criteria, and I want us to go through it together. So how will the selection be done? One, the child will have to pick a total number of 12 schools. I repeat, the child will have to pick a total number of 12 schools. The first 7 schools are for their first choice pathway. So out of the 3 career pathways that we talked about, or rather the 3 pathways that we discussed, the child has to pick one, which is their first choice. So their first choice, they'll pick the schools, 7 of the schools that are offering that particular pathway. The second group of schools that they have to pick are the schools for their second choice pathway. So the second group of schools will be the schools that the child has selected as a second choice. And the last will be the 2, which is their third choice pathway. I'll give an example. This is child X. Child X has selected the STEM pathway as their first choice pathway. So in the first choice, the schools that have been categorized under that particular, and remember, as I said, all schools will be offering STEM, so the child will just have to pick 7 of the schools in that category. Then the second choice maybe could be, I'm thinking about STEM as my first career choice or my first pathway choice, and my second choice is going to be, let's say, arts and sports sciences. So here, the child has to pick 3 schools that are offering arts and sports sciences. Now, remember, we said that there are schools that will offer triple pathways, and there are schools that will offer 2 pathways. So the child has to pick a school under the STEAM pathway that they're going to, that they would like to go to in the event that they do not get through their first choice. And the third one is going to be that they have to pick 2 schools from their third pathway. Now, that third pathway, of course, is obvious. For example, if our child X picks STEM as the first choice, arts and sports sciences is their second choice, automatically is going to be social sciences. So definitely this child now will have to pick 2 schools, and that makes a total of 12 schools. Now, there's another catch. Remember that there was categories that we talked about. 9 of these schools must be hybrid or boarding. Then 4 of these schools must be in their home county, and the 5 others might be in other counties. So the remaining 3 will be in their home county, and they must be day schools. We've talked about the 7 schools for their first or their preferred pathway, the 3 schools for their second preferred pathway, the 2 schools for their third preferred pathway. Remember that this selection is based on their career aspirations, it's based on their grades or based on how they performed during their grade 7 to 9, and it's also based on their interests and talents. So that's also something that you need to think about as the child is selecting their pathway schools. Now, they've given another sort of a way in which they can create some level of equity. And the first one is that the child has to select part of the schools to be boarding, or rather the hybrid schools that we talked about. The other is that some of the schools selected must be in their home county, and the rest will be now in other counties. And the last one is that the child has to pick some schools that are day. And of course, these have to be in their sub-county. So it's important for the child, even as a parent or as a teacher or as any person who's helping a child in the selection of pathways, to think about all those things as you select the pathway for your child. The first one is, are they interested in this particular pathway? The second one is, are they good at it? Have they been performing, or has their performance indicated that they will do or thrive in this particular pathway? The third one is, how are their career aspirations? Like, is my child thinking of being a nurse and I'm taking them to do the art and sports sciences pathway? Is it really making sense? Probably not. So it's important for you first to select the pathway, and then you look at the schools that will be categorized. As of now, we've not received the document that explains what schools are where, but once the schools are out, then it will be sent to you, and the child will be able to select the schools based on their preferred pathway. Lastly, the child has to select schools based on their home county, based on the accommodation, based on the gender status. And as I said, you have to still select a day school, one way or another, that is located within your home area. So once that document is out, I'm sure it will be shared to you through your respective schools, through the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development website. And from there, we can be able to take this conversation further and be able to really address some of the pain points that are expected in this selection criteria process. But otherwise, as of now, that's the information that we've gotten, and that's what we can be able to put on the table with regards to the senior secondary conversation. I want to ask you as a parent or as a stakeholder in this conversation or as a teacher, what are some of the loopholes that you think are likely to occur with this selection process? Is it going to be equitable? Is it going to be something that's going to work? And also, are children actually ready to be able to select pathways at this age and time? That's the question I want to leave with you today as I come to the end of that conversation. And be sure to once again like, subscribe, comment, and tell us what you think. And I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye and thank you.